Many suggest that if the asset declaration regime was working effectively, we would not have to wait for the will of the late Sir John to be leaked before we get alarmed and start asking special prosecutor to investigate. Do you agree with that?
Certainly. Unfortunately, in our dispensation, we have a regime we passed in 1998, that's Act 550, that just provides for public officers of a certain category to declare their assets and liabilities. Unfortunately, we usually say just declaration of assets and we end there. It is very critical that people are also declaring their liabilities, and it spells out who to declare those assets to. Unfortunately, there is best practice which we are not complying with. As you mentioned, the UNCAG gives us some hints or pointers to which to do this. The OECD also has, I think the Asian community has one of the best practice examples of asset declaration regimes that exist. And recently we did an analysis of same, and we realized that our law, which we have been advocating for a change forever, is one of the weakest we have, because you just declare your assets, and until such a time that there is an issue where a competent authority, which is SHRAJ as provided by the Constitution, then goes in to assess and do an analysis. So our regime is weak. Our regime is a facilitator of some of these infractions that we clearly see. And if it is true what I have heard and read, I hear the gentleman did not even declare his assets in the first place per initial checks. If this is true, this is a big infraction. How come the appointing authority did not ensure that somebody they have appointed declared their assets? The Constitution says 3 months after the assumption of office, and Act 550 says 6 months after the assumption of office, and the same 6 months after you have left public office or the assigned office to which you were occupying. Today, if what we are hearing is true, then that's a big infraction. And there are sanctions that come with non-compliance as spelled out in the Constitution and also in the Act. We have other places, and I talk about best practice, where assets and liabilities that are declared are verified, and to push it published as well. Then the final stage is the monitoring of the assets and the liabilities, because people pick up or reduce their assets as they go on in life. And so if you have taken office today, even as a public officer, let me use you, for instance, 3 months after you have taken office, at a certain salary, you should declare your assets. And then when, during your tenure, whenever you acquire a new asset or a new liability, you quickly amend what you have presented to the Auditor General, who is the custodian of those assets. And it is the business of the Auditor General to then verify what you have brought, if they are correct, and if they are not correct, ask you to correct same. Unfortunately, our system is not like that. And let me quickly say that one of the good things we have done in this country is that we wanted a review that captured beyond just asset declaration. And so the new law, which we refer to as the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, captures issues around asset declaration. And there's some modicum of verification in there. And we also were pushing for issues around publication of the assets, which was strongly opposed to. I remember in the last parliament, this went through to the first reading, I think even the second reading. Unfortunately, the debate was not conclusive and it didn't get passed. We heard the president wanted that law to pass because it also captures the critical issue of conflict of interest. which we shouldn't be speaking to, because for now we know, because it's not criminalized, nobody can be held accountable for a public officer engaging in such behaviors, and we have had examples of that in the past. Unfortunately, this law is not passed. Yesterday, I heard Parliament lamenting about asset declaration, and I thought that was unfortunate because they had the opportunity to pass that law, which would have strengthened our regime and also even added the aspect of unexplained wealth, which we could go after public officers who have acquired certain properties which we cannot explain. Unfortunately, they didn't pass. I hope during the tenure of this parliament that law would get passed.